Alright, so here's what we do. Underneath this cover right here is your timing chain, your timing gear. We pull this off so we can line up the timing marks. So the lobes on the cam will be pointing down so that we can adjust the valves. The intake valve is adjusted 2 to 4 thousandths, and the exhaust valve is 4 to 6. Alright, so what we want to do here is we want to pull this off of here, this rubber vent line. Just give her a twist and she should. A little corroded. And we want to take these screws out of here. And when we pull this cover off, there will be an O-ring on the inside here. But it comes right off. And right here's your O-ring, which goes in this groove. Actually, I'm going to pull that off of there and place it back in the groove. Alright. Next, I'm going to take the intake cover off on the intake valve. This is so when, first, well, so we can adjust the valve. Second, so when I do the timing, I can check to make sure there's play in the rocker arm. And this tap just comes off. Next, what we want to do is you want to spin the motor over. You can see this line right here above my finger. And I might get a little shaky here. And we're going to line it straight up and down. It can be a little of a pain sometimes. Alright, it's easier to do with the camera off. So now you see this line here, it's straight up and down. Now we're going to come back up here to make sure that there's play in the rocker arm. Sometimes you have to turn the motor around again to bring the cam where it needs to be. But once that mark is on the top and your rocker arm's free, you're ready to adjust it. Alright, so what we want to do now is it's 2 to 4 thousandths on the intake. I'm going to start out with my 4 thousandths feeler gauge, and you just slide it between the top of your valve and the bottom of your rocker arm. And this is pretty loose. I don't have any drag at all. You want to feel a slight drag on the feeler gauge. So we're going to go ahead and adjust this. This is a 10mm bolt or nut that you just loosen it up. Then there's a little square screw that you just turn down. So this is a 4 thousandths. I'm going to adjust it in the middle at 3 thousandths. Alright, so I take my 3 thousandths and I slide it in there. Then I tighten this little square screw down until I feel drag. Now this can be tricky because when you tighten the nut back up, it can change it all on you. And see right there when I tighten that up, it's too tight. So we back it off, readjust, try a little bit different position. think we got her this time. Yep, we got just a slight drag there. Now that valve's all adjusted. Now one thing to check when you put your valve cover back on, I don't know if you'll see that there's a little, on the Yamahas, there's a little ledge up here. And what that is, that goes towards the top, because what that does then is it collects oil and drips it down on top of the valve. And you want to make sure when you do tighten these up that you don't over tighten. I mean, you are tightening into aluminum. But just give them a good turn and you should be all set. So anyways, you do the same on the exhaust side. I'm not going to show you it because it's harder for me to get in there with the angle of the camera. And you don't have to readjust your timing. Just check it maybe before just to make sure your marks are lined up. And then make sure your O-ring's in place. And then we will put this cover back on. And you can slide, if you want, here's a little tip to help you put hoses back on, is if you take a little brake clean or starting fluid and just hit the surface like that, you don't need much. That'll slide right back on easy. And then once that dries, it'll be on there. It won't come back off. And we'll just do the same thing over here just for the sake of doing it. And that's how you adjust the valves on a Yamaha Bear Tracker. I hope to do more of these videos in the future if time allows me to. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And until next time, take care.